This is Professor Michael Chapman. I'm one of the most experienced IVF doctors in Australia. I believe that an important part that I can contribute is to educate patients in relation to fertility, infertility, and all that involves. These series of podcasts help to educate you. I hope they are helpful to you. If you wish to know more, however, I'm more than happy to have you contact me via email, which is profmchapman@gmail.com, or make an appointment to see me on 9138 4222.
Prof, we've got a follow-up question from Dusika. She says, with my question about the injections, what is the maximum in New South Wales if you have low egg count?
Well, there's no maximum anywhere in the world. It's up to the clinician to believe that what they're doing is right. I mean, the evidence with low egg numbers is pretty difficult to interpret. I mean, there are people who would say that giving a low dose and getting the one egg that we're going to get anyway, why don't you just use a low dose? Through to those who pull out all guns. You know, some of my colleagues in New South Wales, I know, give 600 or 800 units of FSH. I think that most people stop at 450. I generally start at 300, but if there's not such a great response, I'll push it up towards the 400 and 450. But you know, that'll be the second or third go at it, not the first time round. And there is some evidence that basically FSH binds to receptors in the eggs, and the rest, and there's only a certain amount of FSH that can do that, and the rest of it is just basically goes out, flushed out in the urine. And when people have measured the serum levels of FSH, the blood levels of FSH, peaks, plateaus, no matter how much more FSH you give, you don't get a higher concentration. So, yeah, so in New South Wales, there are clinicians who do go above 450. There's not very many. I know in some clinics, you know, there is an absolute rule that you don't go above 450. And there are some clinics, certainly the public clinics, where 300 is the maximum dose, based upon the evidence that it probably doesn't make a great deal of difference. And the problem is that from cycle to cycle, there is variation in the number of eggs, particularly when you're getting down to the low end. So a dose of 300, and that is a study from Monash that showed that if you give 300 in three cycles, you'll get three different numbers of eggs, from low through to high, and you can't predict that in advance.
Prof, question from Samantha. Hello, Prof. What causes more than 50% embryos degenerate before day 3? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mean, number one must be egg quality. We need to wonder whether the eggs are of good quality. And that's, you know, I think I mentioned earlier that we use polarized light microscopy in those sort of situations to look at the eggs before we do ICSI on them. And that enables us to, you know, get a good idea as to whether the eggs are of good quality. There's something inside the egg where the chromosomes come together called a spindle. And if we see a spindle, we know that that's a good egg. If we see a disarrayed spindle or an absent spindle, the chances of a pregnancy from that egg are less than 5%. So egg quality is number one. And then after that, it's the sperm quality. Now, in the first 48 hours, the egg is pretty much dependent on the genes of the egg rather than the sperm. Around about day 3, the genetic signals from the sperm start to play a part.
And don't forget that you can access all the previous episodes by going to our website www.theivfjourney.com and select IVF Journey podcast from the navigation menu.